offense looked pretty flawless, and the ball was popping around, not sticking. A lot of the players talked about that. Is that something this team, maybe has to do well to be effective?
Well, I think that leads to the balance that this team's going to have to be successful. And you look at it, it really could have been 6 guys in double figures. You have 4, and the 9 turnovers. That means that there were 8, or that really, we opened the game with a turnover and we ended the game with a turnover. So really, we played 40 minutes there with 7 turnovers. So that's acceptable, and give ourselves a chance by using this balance. Again, there is no confusion. Juwan knew that this was coming, so we were teaching offense in July, and then you have Howard Isley, and he's really exceptional. He calls the whole game, so he was calling this game, and it was his scout. So along with Sadi, he has to determine what the matchups are and how we're going to guard. And they gave us a little wrinkle with Burgess being out, and I don't want to mess up the young man's name, but the kid had a nice game, Evan Johnson, for them. He kind of changed how we were guarding the ball screen. So our strength is our balance. It's going to have to be our balance. It's going to be our versatility. Even as you're keeping track, there was a lineup out there at one time of T. Will and Trey Jackson. So somebody said, well, who's the 2? I don't know. They were both wings in that particular instance. And I looked Dougie off 2 or 3 times. He kept pulling out his shirt, and I was like, it was a pretty good crowd, and I didn't pay any attention to him because I had no answers with Namari being in foul trouble and George being in foul trouble.
Steve?
Phil, Doug talked about how much he's enjoyed getting to know Olivier, and they've worked at developing a connection and camaraderie, and Olivier said the same thing about Doug. Talk about how important that is to a team that's coming together at the beginning of a year with some new players.
Well, again, I've said this quite frequently, but the NCAA, as much as everybody knocks them, that the time they give you in the summer allows for that growth. And again, Juwan promotes that. It could be something like, we went to the Motown Museum, right? Now, that was really cool for me with my age group. I don't know about them, like they were looking for Lil Baby or Da Baby or the Baby or whoever it is that does their music. And I was like, man, you guys know who walked through these hallways? And then we went to lunch. So those kind of things matter, and they help that. We went to Mott's, we visited, and those kind of things matter. I don't think it's always going to be, ice cream and balloons with those 2, because they have strong opinions, and they have strong opinions about each other. So, some days they don't have to like each other. As long as they love each other, we're good.
As long as they come out the other end with respect.
With just a couple scratches. They could have a couple scratches. But we don't want anybody to be assaulted in any way.
No.
Yeah, Doug mentioned that a couple of the guys have been calling him the head of the snake and saying that the team will go as far as he goes. How do you think the team went with him tonight?
Well, he's been really good. And I just think that, you see those jumps. You see those jumps from freshman to sophomore year. And I think that he deserves a lot of credit, and his family deserves a lot of credit because they stay on him because he can wiggle. If he sees a little crack, he can get in a crack for you. But he's been really good every day in practice. And again, you have the point guard whisperer and Howard Isley. You'd have to be almost a rock not to improve under Howard Isley. And Dougie has been a sponge, and that's what we need him to do. That's not enough, though. He's got to be better tomorrow than he was tonight.
Anthony?
A couple weeks ago, we spoke to Jason. He made a comment about this potentially being the most mature team that he's been a part of. So to you so far, what stands out about the way this team handles its business?
I think the biggest thing that stands out to me, now this is a personal thing, is we have not had a day, we've not had an hour in a day, we've not had a drill in a day where they're looking around and going, yeah, where's Coach? And what would Coach do? And, you know, why do you do it that way? This offense and this defense is Juwan Howard's offense and defense. The way we practice is the way that I like to practice. And they haven't blinked. So that's where I appreciate them. You know, like, you're young enough so I could say this. Like, you remember when you were a kid and you walked in and your eyes got this big and you went, substitute teacher, right? Well, I'm not the substitute teacher. Like, I don't mean that egotistically. Like, I know what I'm doing here. So they have allowed me to be me and to never think like, I don't have to walk on eggshells and say, well, you know what, I don't want to upset them. No, we coached them every day in practice, and that to me is the most mature thing. The most mature that we need them to be is yet to come, right? Just call it the way it is. We just haven't trailed. Like, just suppose, I'm not reporting this, but just suppose we had a secret scrimmage in Milwaukee, okay? And just suppose that the score that was reported was the score of that 48 minutes. And just suppose in 48 minutes we trailed twice. So we haven't gotten blood in our mouth yet, right? You get blood in your mouth when you're trailing, when it's not going your way. And that's when I would like to see their maturity come forth.
Liza?
Yeah, so you mentioned yesterday that Olivier demanded the matchup on your Pemba and got him in foul trouble pretty early today. What did that do for the team and Olivier's overall play against his former teammate?
Well, first of all, Olivier shared with Pember, he told us what Pember could do, what improvements he has seen since they were together freshman and sophomore year at Tennessee. I think that we all talked about Pember was not just the player of the year in their conference last year. He was the defensive player of the year in their conference. He had 80 block shots last year. Again, Howard Isley calling sets to take the ball at him was a big plus for us. And the biggest deal, again, it goes to that maturity, is this was not Olivier against Pember. This was Michigan against UNC Asheville. And what we were trying to do and what Olivier was trying to do on each and every play was for us to win that possession, not him to be winning a possession.
Got time for a couple more, Kellen?
You've mentioned the versatility of this team and guys being able to play multiple positions. It seems tonight you guys played with a noticeably faster pace, you know, guys playing in transition, getting a lot of open threes, getting a lot of open shots that way. Was that an intention with Howard Isley's offense to play a little bit faster with this group, knowing you had that versatility?
To be honest with you, it was a decision that we made in the summer. And one of the things we talked about at halftime is we weren't quick enough. Fast is not a good word in basketball. Quick is the word for basketball. You need to be fast in football, but in basketball you need to be quick. And we were not quick enough up and down the floor in the first half, even though we scored, 48 points. We are dedicated We are dedicated to being a transition team because, don't tell anybody, one of our Achilles heels could be our outside shooting. We weren't sure how we were going to shoot the ball. So in order to score enough points, right, at magic numbers probably 75 or 76 in college basketball, to score enough points, we had to be quick down the floor, not fast down the floor.
Tony?
Terrence Williams, really nice night for him. How important is that after a trying year, just his confidence?
Well, if you go all the way back, when we signed him, having watched him since he was in the 9th grade, I knew he was a difference maker. He impacts winning, and you go through all those different games, right, when he was young. We don't win at Ohio State, probably we don't get into the tournament when he's a sophomore unless he puts up 20. We don't beat Tennessee to go to the Sweet 16 unless he gets 2 tip-ins, right? So the versatility. So I think that he is an example to all of our guys, right? It's always not going to go your way. And for whatever reason, it didn't go his way. He could have done what some seniors do and say, you know what, I've had a pretty good run. Can't wait to get my degree. I'm going to have this fabulous degree. Or you can put your back to the wall and say, you know what, I'm going out. I'm going out as hard as I can. And that's really what we've seen. Since July 1, he has shot the ball exceptionally well. He's not a vocal guy, but he is a guy that holds others accountable. So as long as he's better tomorrow than he was tonight, then this was a good thing. If he's not better tomorrow than he was tonight, then this was just a flash in the pan.
Steve, you want to close this out?
Olivier has a wingspan that really jumps out at you, and the quickness and the tenacity. Talk about that wingspan and what his ability to play a lot of different players, a lot of different positions will do for this team.
I also think it's that his shoulders, like he's always going downhill. He's always going downhill. The thing that he has that jumped out to me is he really sits down defensively, and you're right. When he spreads out, you're like, yeah, that's what a power forward looks like. I think he's a really, 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 really good athlete, and I think we've yet to see what may be his best skill, and his best skill is passing.
Yeah, a couple of.
All right, Coach.
Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you.